Hello, and today I'm going to talk about a film called The Disaster Artist. Now, The Disaster Artist is directed by James Franco and stars James Franco as Tommy Wiseau. And if you don't know what The Disaster Artist is, let me give you some info. Disaster Artist is a book written by Greg Sestero about the making of The Room, the greatest bad movie ever made, according to some. This is a bad movie that's so much fun to watch, mostly because of his star Tommy Wiseau, who is a mysterious man who no one really knows where he's from, what his age is, or how he even makes his money, because he actually spent $6 million on The Room. And this movie is the making of The Room and the friendship between Greg Sestero and Tommy Wiseau. Greg Sestero is played by Dave Franco, who's okay in the film. I just don't really like him that much. He doesn't really seem like Greg Sestero, but the standout performance of the film is James Franco as Tommy Wiseau. I mean, I had to remind myself many times in the film that's James Franco, because his accent he uses, his mannerisms, the way he looks like a young Tommy Wiseau. Which is funny because they always make jokes of Tommy Wiseau being old in this film. He just looks like a younger version of Tommy Wiseau. Because the real Tommy Wiseau, he's got a very his face shows a lot of age. Like, you can tell this man's lived a life just looking at his face. So what is the movie really about? Well, it's about Tommy Wiseau and Greg Sestero meeting in San Francisco in 1998, and then they become friends and decide to make their own movie called The Room. And The Room turns out to be a disastrous production and a disastrous premiere. And over time, it became a cult classic, and now Tommy Wiseau and Greg Sestero are cult heroes. And this movie is just the making of the film, and as well as, like I said, the friendship between Tommy Wiseau and Greg Sestero. On that note, though, the Greg Sestero and Tommy Wiseau parts are probably my favorite things about the movie. Tommy Wiseau being all weird, and Greg Sestero trying to make it in Hollywood. And he's friends with a weird and addict man. He just happens to have a lot of money, so he decides he's going to make the movie with him because he has the funding, and they make The Room. Now, this film is directed by James Franco, and for a direction standpoint, he's not very visceral. I mean, it's shot well, it's lit well, the actors... I think director James Franco is very good at directing actors. Every actor gives an amazing performance. Zac Efron's great in a small role as Chris R, the gangster who wants money. Josh Hutcherson is... Hutcherson? I forget. I think he's the guy from the Hunger Games. Yeah, he's the guy from Hunger Games. He's great as Denny. He's a pretty good fit. Now, I really wish they got David Wayne as the guy who plays Peter, because they're like doppelgangers. But no, they got Nathan Fillion, who is great, the guy from Nathan For You. Let's see. I mean, Seth Rogen's in the film as well. He's very funny. Everyone is great. Paul Scheer, who did a great podcast called How Did This Get Made, where he tells about bad movies, and he did a great one on The Room. So it's great to see Paul Scheer here. Yeah, it's got a bunch. There's an opening sequence where there's talking heads of people talking about The Room, including Danny McBride, who I love, Kristen Bell, who loves The Room, Adam Scott, Kevin Smith, J.J. Abrams even there. I'm like, what? All these great Hollywood people talk about The Room. Was a pretty weird way to open the movie. But yeah. Now, like many movies based on books, this movie could not have the entire book adapted. I mean, the book itself, the audiobook's like 7 hours long. I have the audiobook, and it's a pretty long book, so they left out a lot of great stuff. Like, okay, so I have a great idea. I'm going to remake this movie myself when I become a filmmaker and make it as close to the book as possible and keep all the cool stuff. Like, there's a really funny story about the year of the 9... okay. There's a really funny story about 1 year after the anniversary of 9/11. Tommy Wiseau makes everybody have a moment of silence and no one can stop laughing. So they stood there for like 4 or 5 minutes trying to keep silence as Tommy Wiseau says, "Screw you, Osama bin Laden. We'll get you, motherfucker." It's just a funny story, and I want to add stuff like that to my film if I get to make Disaster Artist more like the book. And I want to play Tommy Wiseau. Yeah. So yeah, the movie is just about the making of The Room, the friendship of Greg Sestero, and the premiere, and it's got like a epilogue showing that the movie became a hit as a cult classic. The movie is pretty good. It's not an amazing film. I just really love the performance of James Franco. That's probably the highlight. And yeah. But what do you guys think of it? Remember, like the video, comment on the video, share, subscribe, and I will see you guys next time.